So the question was, when would you use day rates on your projects? And the answer to that question is I would never use day rates. I know that people do use them. I know that people use day rates. I get it. I know that trades price up work using day rates, and I know that property investors engage trades and builders on a day rate. Now, the thing with day rates is there's no way of putting this without pissing folk off. But here's the truth. If your trades and builders are using day rates to price up work, then there is not enough information for them to price up that work. You haven't provided enough information for them to be able to price up that work. And if you're on the other side of the coin and using day rates to price up work, to buy work, if you're using day rates, then you're just, when you do that as a client, you're absorbing all of the risk, all of it, because there is no incentive whatsoever for the people that you employ to finish the task. Because with day rates, you're buying time and not a result. And that's ultimately the thing. With a day, let me say that again. So when you engage someone, and what I mean by that is when you employ someone, you hire someone, you take someone on, or you get someone in to work on your projects, when you do that, you're buying time from that person. You are not buying a result. You are not buying a product. You are not buying a service. You're not even buying quality. You're buying time. Hence it being called a day rate. That is all you're buying, time. Now, if that's what you need on your project, you need someone, you need to buy time, then go with it. You know, it might work. But I'll have you consider this. If you're a client and you generally, in fact not generally, you always want a result. You always want to buy a result. You don't want to buy time from someone. So it's critical for you to understand this. That when you're buying a product or a service or someone to come and work on your projects, then you are buying a result. You're not buying time from a person. You should always know this. Because the biggest risk that comes with engaging someone, or employing someone, taking someone on, get someone in on your projects when you're getting them in on a day rate, is that if you're just buying time, you're not buying the thing that you need. You're not buying the rewire. You're not buying the plastering. You're not buying the kitchen fit. You're buying the time off the person to do that piece of work. And that could take 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. And you absorb as the client, you absorb all of that risk. You own all of that risk now in terms of time. The tradesman doesn't. You should be always looking for a fixed price for a product or a service. Always. That's what you should always do. I talked about spending this morning after an experience I had with the kids last night in Tesco. The big thing I hear most of all when it comes to making more profit on your refurbishment projects is people overspending, or what they deem to be overspending. Now, as I say, I went into Tesco yesterday. I forgot my wallet, but I had a tenner in my arse pocket, and I was going to get 3 birthday cards and a tub of Halo ice cream. It'd been a long day, so the Halo ice cream was called for. And I got to the till and she said £11, and I was like, well, I got a tenner. Shit. Didn't have my wallet with me. Didn't have my phone with me to pay on the Apple Pay, just £10 in my pocket, that's it. So I've now had 2 choices, either put something back or try and sweet talk the lady into give me a discount. I put one of the cards back. But what this experience did for me was, I'm stood there, and in the refurb space, in the property space, it's very easy to blame the cashier and say, oh, you racked up 11 quid and I only had a tenner. Now, in Tesco, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't blame the cashier for us spending too much money. And this is what's happening on those refurb projects when you're not making the profits that you're forecasting. These projects that you are undertaking. The thing with overspending is one of two things has happened, and it's most likely the first thing I'll cover. When you overspend on a project, you haven't really and truly overspent. What you probably did was underestimated the cost of what needs to be done. Like what I did, I thought a tenner would be plenty for some ice cream and 3 birthday cards. But it wasn't enough. Not for the standard that I wanted anyway. Maybe I could have put the halo back and got some Tesco special for a bit cheaper. And it's the same analogy on a refurb project. Now, there is a massive difference between overspending and underestimating. Massive difference. There's a huge void. But what happens when we underestimate and then we call it overspending, or we call it we went over budget? We start pointing fingers. Start pointing fingers at the builders, start pointing fingers at the trades that has been on the job, planning, building control, consultants, architects, suppliers. Oh, he charged me this, he did that, he took too long doing this. And that finger of blame is always pointing out. Where truly, 9 times out of 10, when a project goes over the numbers, the original numbers were wrong in the first place. It was underestimated at the point of purchase, negotiation, or whatever phrase, word we want to use for it. So when this does happen, you have to take responsibility for that thing, for that fuck up, for that mistake. That mistake, that lack of forecasting, that lack of the skill set that's missing in being able to price up that project so that you can make more profit at the end. So that you've got cash in the bank at the end when you sell it, refinance it, or whatever it is that you're doing with it. There's a number of cornerstones to consider when it comes to pricing up work before we even consider what the pricing up is going to be. I want to talk this morning following a call I took yesterday from a guy looking to start making more profit from his refurbishment projects. Now, he had a pain point with, he's running a construction company, a small construction company running subcontractors. And his biggest pain point was him going to, we'll say sign off the work, him going to at the end of a project, and him finding that the standards that's been installed aren't to his liking. Now, he was really pissed off. He was really pissed off with the guys that have been working there and the products and standards that they've installed. He wasn't happy with it. Now, the reason this guy is getting pissed off here, as the business owner, as the client, is because the trades and labour aren't showing up as him. They're not meeting his expectation or his standard, the standard that he would have expected these guys to install. Now, throughout all professions, this is not just the construction industry, everybody's got a certain set of standards that they live and work to, and everyone's is different. What's an amazing standard to one person may not well be the same to me. I may get a report in off my site manager or site representative that says, everything's done, boss. Everything's done. They've done an amazing job. The standard's fantastic. I could go and go, no, it's not. You know, neither are fact. Both are opinionated based on our own standards, based on our own expectation of what the quality should be. So this is the thing that's going to piss you off when you're running a project, is the standard that you expect isn't the same standard as the person installing it expects. You can flip this on its head as well and think about this. Think about a time you went to sign off some work and it was absolutely amazing and it blew your head off. It was that good. That's because they've exceeded your expectation. But it's when they under-deliver, aligned with what your expectations are, is when you're going to have an issue. So there's 2 ways to get around this. Only 2 ways to solve this apparent problem. And if you want to start making more profit from your projects, from your refurbishment projects, you've got to know this. You've got to use this skill in your projects, in your business. Number 1 is to communicate your standards clearly, concisely, and effectively before you start work. If it's plastering, we're going to tell the plasterer exactly what we expect. exactly what we expect in terms of standards and quality. Same for Sparky. People say, oh, it's a given that the sockets must be level. But there's level sockets and there's level sockets. That sounds like a bit of a contradiction of terms, but for those in the game, you'll know what I mean. So communicating the expectation would be the first thing. That would be the first tip. And then second is lowering your expectation, lowering your standard. I know where I want to be. I want to be in A camp, communicating. But there are those that are uncomfortable with that or don't know what that is. And if that's you, then this is for you. You need to lower your expectation. It's only one or t'other. You can only do one or the other, or you will remain pissed off. So take your pick now. So you can either A, communicate your expectations effectively, clearly and concisely before you start work. B, lower your expectation when it comes to that site visit, that signing off. Or C, remain pissed off. You can do one of those things, take your pick. Lucky escape, yes, lucky escape. Guy got in touch on was it Saturday? One day over the weekend, Friday or Saturday, I think it was Saturday. Said he's been looking for a builder to carry out a full refurb for him on a property. And he, I think complained is probably the right word. Complained to me that he couldn't get this builder to sign his contract that he put in place for this refurb, which was relative to time, standards and price. Now he said to me, but this guy, he was this and he was that, and he does some really good work, but he won't sign my contract. Now, for me, if this guy can do what he said he can do, where's the issue in signing it? Unless, of course, you've weighted it to a degree that's made him run away. But remember this when we're going into a contract. Remember this. When we want to get someone to sign a contract, sign into a set of terms and conditions for you as the client. Remember that a contract is merely an agreement between two parties or people based on a set of principles. So if your builders, trades, operatives, representatives, whatever you want to call them, consultants, your whole supply chain are saying they can do something for a price to a standard in a period, what's the problem? As long as your agreement is geared around that. I genuinely don't see why someone wouldn't sign into that. Because by not signing into that, what they're saying is, well, I'm saying I can do this, but actually, I don't think I can. What's been your experience of this? What's been your experience of getting guys to try and sign into an agreement or sign into a contract? I'd love to hear. We have a set of terms and conditions and contracts on every job that we do. Every single one. It protects me and it protects the client. And it gives us an immediate point of reference in the event of a discussion needing to take place. That's what it's there for. It's not there for one party to whip the other. It's an agreement and a point of reference throughout the project for you to use to deliver it. And this will make sure that you make more profit from your refurbishment projects. 100%. And yet I see people so many times going into this thing without this in place, without this really basic level of project management in place. I have a contract for a gym membership that's fucking 25 quid. So I'm certainly going to have one for a multi-thousand-pound project every single time. That's not my problem. Was a conversation I had yesterday with a potential client. So put a quote into a client with a view to starting work in, I think it was August, it might have been September, I forget. August or September, that was the proposed start date that we gave this particular client. Now within our quotation, there's a little caveat at the bottom. Relative to the price increase in materials, potential price increase in materials, and how that may need to be revisited at the start date. So we're like where are we now? May, June, isn't it? 3 months away potentially from starting. And this particular potential client has picked up on this line in our quotation and said, I don't want that in there. I want a fixed price. So when going in to explain it and say, look, this is the reason that that's in there, that was the response, that's not my problem. Well, I hate to break this to you, Mr. Client, but it is. The materials going into your project are exactly that, I'm not going to say your problem, but they are yours to buy. And the quote I'm giving you right now is only based on what the current market rates are. If the current market rates increase, then so will your price. I have this conversation regular with tradesmen that this is happening to. And the general feedback I get off tradesmen is, I don't feel like I can go back to the client and ask for more money. Now, if the price of the materials has gone up since you submitted a quotation, then it's something that you've got to do. Something that you've got to do is put that price up. Now, I understand that conversation is not comfortable, and I understand that there's a bit of trepidation when raising that as a subject. However, there are two choices. You carry on at your cost, or you have the conversation. Communication is massively important here, and getting this out in the open. Getting this out in the open as early as possible. That's what stands you out, rather than bagging an invoice in that's now inflated without any explanation. So if you're wanting to make more profit from your projects, both clients and trades, you need to get a grip of this early, nice and early in that process. Have that uncomfortable conversation. Well, it might not be uncomfortable. Have the conversation. As long as you explain this, in my experience, explaining it, rather than just trying to put in a higher invoice for works that have been done, for me, this usually works. People usually understand, particularly given the state of the world today.
Is frustration in the property world for me right now. I just want to share my experience with this and what's happening to me personally, in my business and in life as well. And I believe this is one of the contributors to people paying over market asking prices, I won't say value, why that's happening right now. And I think a lot of people are getting frustrated with this, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are paying over the odds, over the deemed odds. Now, we are looking for, you may have heard me talk about this, we are looking for barn conversions just now. We're looking for a barn conversion to A, live in, and B, run our business from. And we've been looking for that for about, I'm going to say purposefully, for about 6 months now. So for the last 6 months, we've had, I'm going to say, 7 offers on the table. This off the top of my head, it might be a little bit more. I think we've had 7 offers on the table, all of which we got absolutely fucking blown out of the water. To give you the most extreme example, we had an offer in at 810,000 and the property sold for 1.3 million. Now, to bring that into my today frustration, this has happened repeatedly on every barn that we've gone after. Significantly over asking price. Now, last night, a barn was sent to me by an agent that we've been dealing with on one of the other offers. And this barn that we got sent, I kind of looked at it, I saw the plot, I saw the asking price, and I said to Lisa, I don't fucking care what the asking price is, let's get it. That fits all, that ticks all the boxes, I don't care. Now, all the other people that have, I won't say gazumped, outbid us on the other projects, they may well have felt that as well. They may well have had 6 months of frustration looking for something bespoke like this and just thought, I don't care what it is, don't care what it costs. And I actually said that out loud. I said that to Liz and she's like, whoa. Let's not get excited. Let's not bring emotion into play here. And we need to still tactically stack this thing up. We need to still make sure that we're going to make money from it. But I kind of like, well, this is something that we really, really want. They don't grow on trees. They're not on every street corner. They're just, these projects come few and far between. Now, this one, I don't want to share the numbers and jinx it, but it really does work, even at the asking price. But then you've got that sort of, right, well, if we go in at the asking, what if someone else puts in 50 grand more or 100 grand more? Does it still work then? And then we start thinking, well, maybe we should just go in at 50 grand more or 100 grand more. So easy to go down that spiral of thought.
First and foremost, I want to say a big, warm, sincere thank you. Thank you to everybody for all your support over the last, however long it's been now, probably 18 months, 2 years, that I've been doing these morning lives and people tuning in and just engaging, taking part and helping me to grow as well. So firstly and foremost, thank you. Second, what I want to talk about this morning is I'm going on some property viewings this morning, 3 in fact. And those property viewings, I cannot work out whether they are going to be profitable projects until I know 3 key things. Firstly, what I'm going to do with it. Secondly, how I'm going to do it. And lastly, how long it's going to take me. I've got to know what those 3 things are before I can calculate or work out whether that project will be profitable or not. Those 3 key things, those 3 cornerstones, are everything that I talk about in my book. So for the guys that are asking for the contents page in my book before they buy it, that's what's in there. If you're happy with all that, don't buy the book. Do not buy it. What I want to talk to you this morning about is Shipwork, how to manage and communicate when something on your project doesn't go really to the standard that you expected. So that's the first thing. The first thing is when we've got a standard that we expected to achieve, then we must communicate that in advance of the project starting and then managing it throughout the process. Now, what I see so many people doing is the wait till the end. They wait till the end of the project and then they start chinning that stuff shit. And that's a huge, I won't say it's a mistake, because you may well not know this and you may well not be educated on what you should do whilst the project is progressing. I see there was one particular post I've just seen it was in a local builders group for Lincoln, I think it was. Someone's had a roof done. They posted a picture of the roof and it was pretty dire, to be fair. But it should never get to that stage. It should never get to the point where a guy's presenting an invoice and you looking at a roof and going, yeah, that's not very good. It shouldn't get that far. There's a process that you should be following throughout that project whilst it's progressing, and sort of, managing it as it goes rather than trying to deal with everything right at the end when it comes to the point of invoicing. Because if it gets that far, then it really is too late. It really is. You're just going to be faced with more and more problems when you let it get right to the end, to the point of invoicing, before you start doing stuff about it. But that's not the point I wanted to make today. I've rattled it already. What the point I wanted to make was, when something is shit, when you want something rectifying, when you want something remediating, when you want something to be resolved or changed, don't use opinionative, I think I might have just made that word up, words. So let's not use language like, that plastering's shit, or that painting is shit. You need to be factual with it if you want it to be resolved. So let's say I'm looking in my office now, and let's have a look. Let me find some shit. I know, actually, I know there's a bit of shit plastering. Hang on a sec. Where is it? I'll turn that around. So this wall here, you can see here, there's a bit of a trowel mark, there's a bit of a bump in the plaster. And I've never rectified that because I like to point it out when I do training and stuff. So rather than saying this plastering shit, we need to be factual and say, this plastering here, there's a bump and there's a trowel mark in it. Can it get resolved? That is so much better than this plastering shit, if that makes sense. So we're being factual in the snag, we're being factual in the thing that we're picking up and reporting and want rectifying, rather than just giving an opinion. Let me pick up another one. There's something else here. I think there's a wonky socket somewhere. Here it is. So you can see this here. So Also between the sockets, look, we've got this here. So rather than saying the painting's shit, I'm going to say there's a miss on the paint here, which needs to be resolved. And also, if you look at, they're not really level. In fact, they're not level at all. So that just wants a tweak. You know, that one's cocking that way and that maybe that way. So again, the facts are that socket isn't level, not that socket looks shit. I hope that makes sense, and I hope I'm speaking your language this morning. What I want to talk to you about this morning, everybody has a day one. Everybody has their first day on the job in their business, doing what they do. Everybody has a day one. I was flicking through LinkedIn this morning, this is where this came from, and there was a guy on there looking for work as a plasterer, just left his company that he was working for. And his message basically said, anyone looking for plasterers out there, I'm available immediately. And this bellwort jumps in his comments and said, if you're looking for work as a plasterer, you must be shit. And that is such a shit thing to say, and so inaccurate. Nobody knows this guy's situation at all. You know, he could have just qualified. He could have just lost a project. A client could have cancelled on him. He could have had all his tools nicked and then just got his van back. There's so many different things that could have happened here. So the point of this morning saying that everybody has a day one. Think back to your first day in your business, in your job. You had a day one. When I became a trainer, I had a first day. My first public speaking gig, which I shit myself, by the way, I had a first day. We're all shit at something at one point. But the point being, for you to get experience, you've got to get experience. And don't let that put you off from having that day one. We all come into this world with no money, no followers, no email addresses, no clients, nothing. We all got to have that first day. And move it forward from there. If you're thinking about starting a construction company, I'm wondering how to get started. Maybe you're setting up a deal packaging company, wondering how to get started. You've got to have that day one. You've got to have it. You've got to start somewhere. And once you've started, it's then on to day 2 and day 3 and day 4. Same as anything. Joining the gym, going on a diet, all of them things all start somewhere. And that word's allowance, or not allowed for, being the polar opposite, of course. Now, this come to mind as I put a quote in yesterday for some work, and I found myself typing it. Found myself using the word allowance. Morning, Kev. Allowance, quite regular in the quote. And I have to use this word because the information provided by the client that wants the work doing isn't enough for me to give them a quote or anything accurate. So I have to use what we call allowances. Some know them as provisional sums, some might just guess, some might just estimate. We use the word allowance. Now, what this means is there is not enough information in the client's inquiry for me to give them an accurate price. There's not enough information being provided by the client for me to give them an accurate price for the piece of work they're wanting priced up. To give you a few examples of where the word allowance would be used, I'll give you the example I did myself yesterday. So I was asked to replace 5 windows on this particular project. No spec. Didn't know what they wanted. No specification, no like openers, no nothing. No information whatsoever, just replace window. And I get there's questions to be asked, go backwards and forwards, but to give an estimate, to give a price, to give an allowance, I've got to make some assumptions. So to make those assumptions, I use this phrase, allowances. So what we allowed for, these windows were pretty big, we allowed for 400 quid per window. That was including scaffold and waste removal, and the replacement of what we thought would be best. Now, when we're using that word allowance, what we're saying is that piece of work, you haven't given us enough information for you to give you a price, but we've allowed for 400 quid per window. So that then, we then have a point of reference moving forwards. If a quote comes back from a supplier, from a manufacturer, from a price increase or whatever that is, that price when it comes back, if it's more than 400 quid, I've got a point of reference to go back to and say, look, we only allowed 400 quid. These windows have come in at 520, 530, 600, whatever that is. But without that initial point of reference, without that allowance, there's no opportunity for us to do that. So you've got to have these things in and look out for them on your quotes. The polar opposite to that is no allowance. So I would use no allowance for things like asbestos. So I might say something like, we're doing a full house refurbishment, for example, and we have made no allowance for any asbestos removal. That's a real common one, actually. We've made no allowance for something, and I'm going to use that phrase when it's something that I can't see. And there's a good reason why we do this, which is what I wanted to share this morning, not everything I've already said. So what I wanted to share this morning was about the no allowance thing. So let's say, for example, use the asbestos one again. Let's say I had put an allowance in for asbestos. Let's say that my quote for the property is 40 grand. And I put in an allowance for asbestos at 5 grand. It means I've gone in at 45, and all my competitors that have made no allowance have gone in at 40. So straight away I'm pricing myself out of the market by adding something in that I don't know is there. I hope that makes sense. So it's a really important thing to look out for, to watch out for when you're getting them quotes back. Allowances and no allowances. So if you want to make more profit from your refurbishment projects, you've got to watch out for this. You've got to know. And this is not anybody hoodwinking either. This is builders and trades doing the best with what they have. They're doing the best with the information provided to them. So much. When there's a lack of information, there's going to be a lack of accuracy in the quote that comes back. There's going to be allowances. There's going to be provisional sums. There's going to be guesswork. There's going to be estimation. There's going to be all sorts of shit just because of the lack of information you're providing upfront in advance of the quote coming forward. So it's massively important that you get this right. I want to share with you this morning an experience that I had yesterday with a client looking for refurbishment works. So it was a HMO, it wasn't a conversion. It was an existing HMO, and they wanted us to come and, in their words, freshen it up. So we had a few emails, went backwards and forwards, and I was of the mind, what do you mean by freshen up? What is it that you want doing? So a list of works came through, a job list, if you will. Now that job list is the starting point of your specification. The things that you want doing in the property, in the project. Now, that is a great start. It's a great starting point for you to go off, to come over with a list like that to your builders and trades, so they know what they're going to price up. It's a really important starting point. Now, what I see so many folk do is this. So we get to the, I'm not going to call it a viewing, we get to the it is a fucking viewing, isn't it? So I get to the viewing where I meet the client and we walk the job. And as we're walking round, I start pointing stuff out as the builder. Just for some examples, these weren't on the specification, they weren't on the job list. There was 4 en-suites in this existing HMO. Was it 4? 3 or 4, I forget. None of them had extractor fans in them. And there was mould on the ceilings, that being the cause. So I said to the guy, there's no extractor fans in here. Just take some notes for me. So I start making notes and he starts making notes, this guy. That was one thing. What was the other thing? There was a cracked patio at the back. The patio slab was cracked. And it looked to me, the way that the drains were reconfigured, it looked like there was a leaking drain pot. And I pointed this out to him. He's like, oh yeah, add that on your list as well. There was a number of other things. There was some smoke seals missing, some closers missing. There was no mention of a fire alarm system. And some other bits and bobs. Some boxing in, a boiler repair, and some other bits. There was loads of bits. Loads. Now, this is where property investors, people in the refurbishment space, this is where they get it wrong. So he very loosely says to me as I'm leaving, if you could just add them bits in as well, that would be great. Now, here is the thing with that. He now cannot get comparable quotations. He now cannot get any comparable quotations, and when my quote comes back, it will be higher than everybody else's, because I've allowed for other stuff that I saw when I was there. Somebody going in to win that work, somebody going in pricing to win it, somebody competitive, somebody maybe not got any work and they really want it, they're just going to price what he asked them to price. So let's say that his original list was 20 grand and what I saw makes it 30. My price comes over at 30, my competitor comes over at 20. That property investor, that client is going with the 20 every time. Every time. Yet they don't even know why it's 10k cheaper. So your quotes that you're getting back, you have to have the spec in the first place. Otherwise, they're not comparable at all. You're comparing eggs with onions or apples with oranges. It's not a mark of the rate, shall we say. Now, I get this is challenging, and I get that there are people that need that builder's advice to come in. So if this is happening, if you are doing this is coming over, you have to start building that specification, start building that job list along with your builder or the person that's advising you these extra works. And with that, those extra things that are being priced for, they need to go across the board. Everybody needs to be pricing the same thing, or you are never going to get a fair market rate, ever. Sorry, you'll never be able to compare across the board as a fair market rate, because I'm pricing one thing and somebody else is pricing another. And when I'm doing it like I do it, I'm always going to be more expensive, always. And yet, guy down the road that's using Jack and Dave from the pub to do the works and not really asked at what you need, he just wants to price up what you want, he's going to win the work every time.